Right now, Lil Durk is sitting in Florida's most notorious jail. And trust me, this place is no joke. It's home to some really high-profile people, like YNW Melly, who's been in there for over 5 years. Every inch of this place is covered with surveillance, and the guards are known to be brutal. We've heard they beat up inmates and even let people starve to death. Some parts of the jail are worse than others. And sadly for Dirk, he's in the worst part possible. You won't believe how bad it is. Lil Durk in Broward County Jail on the 25th of October. Dirk was arrested and sent to one of Florida's most notorious jails. As of now, he's waiting to be transferred to the U.S. Marshals. But from what we've learned, there's a chance he'll be waiting a while. It's still early to know exactly what went down, but we do know he's being held without bond, so he won't be getting out anytime soon. Although the crimes he's been charged with didn't happen in Florida, he's being held there, as that's where he was arrested, and he's really unlucky since Broward County Jail is a pretty insane place. Literally, it's been estimated that nearly half of their inmates are suffering from mental health issues, and when you find out about the place, you'll see why. As of now, nobody knows for sure what part of the jail he's in, but we've done some digging and think we've got a good idea. Broward County Jail is the main detention center in Florida and home to many of its most notorious criminals. It's also the place where YNW Melly is being held, and there's a high chance Dirk's housed in the same part of the jail as him. The jail is in the heart of Broward County, and it's huge. It's so big that it's had to be split into 4 sections. The main jail is where the most high-profile and notorious inmates are. It's the place where YNW Melly is. So, it's very likely that Dirk's there too. Inmates in Broward County are split up and classified depending on the severity of their crimes in there. There's no VIP unit, so Dirk most likely won't be getting any special treatment depending on what part of the jail you're in. We'll decide the level of security, but for people in the main jail, they're under maximum security. We also know that the main jail is 8 stories tall with thousands of security cameras watching every inch of it despite the surveillance. Though the jail has been under investigation for the guards' alleged brutal treatment of inmates, that's right, there have been numerous accusations of guards. From inside the prison isn't allowed to be viewed by the public. Still, there have been many ex-inmates who have spoken about their experiences in there. And let's just say, it doesn't sound good. As we said, it's a place with a lot of mentally ill criminals. And some of the stories about what goes on in there are crazy on the jail's official website. It says they're revolutionizing mental health support. But from what people are saying, that's not true at all. Let's hope Dirk isn't put on suicide watch or has a mental health crisis inside. Because if he does, they'll probably put him in solitary confinement. There's a story of one inmate was put in solitary for over 112 days in a row, without any mental health checks. The staff only intervened when he cut off a body part. Trust me, you don't want to know what body part it was. But let's just say he won't be peeing properly for a while. Another guy somehow starved to death in there. So solitary is one place Dirk's going to want to avoid, but not everyone is mentally ill. So what's the jail like for your average inmate? Well, we found some reviews of the place online, and it's far from a 5-star hotel. One Yelp user had a few things to say about their experience there, and although they left it a 5-star review, it's safe to say that was a joke. Here's what they said about it as your stay progresses. I suggest you forget about modesty because any expectation of privacy or personal space is not needed here. They then go on to explain what their roommates were like. Your roommates, in my case Jamal and Bo, will do all sorts of foul acts in front of you, to you, on you, or even in you. It gets worse, but if you keep your back to the wall, they will most likely do it in front of you, so keep your back to the wall. Someone on Reddit also inquired about what it was like inside and what YNW Melly's experience could have been like since he spent 5 years in there. There were some very interesting responses. One user claims that Melly was in the general population before being transferred to protective custody. Here's what they said. I just got out from a year sentence there. Broward has 4 jails. 3 in Pompano, right next to each other, and the main jail in Fort Lauderdale. He goes on to explain what the main jail is like. Main jail is where they do booking and keep higher-profile serious cases. He's in the main jail on the 8th floor. He used to be in Gen Pop, but they switched him to PC. After that, he claims that one of his roommates shared a cell with Melly. My bunkie was in the dorm with him while he was in Gen Pop. He's in PC now, though, and apparently they're treating him real bad, not allowing him to use the phone and not turning on the TV. Jail sucks. It's not a good time. We also know that Melly was in there for 5 years while his trial went on, so Dirk might be facing something similar. As time goes on, we'll discover more about his treatment there. But the fact that 21 inmates have died there in the last few years tells you all you need to know about it. The judge denied his bond once already, and that's because of how serious his charges are. Let's take a look at what he's facing. Dirk's current charges. The reason Dirk's been arrested is because he allegedly tried to get revenge for King Von's death. He's not the only one that's been arrested, though. The police have gone after his whole gang. 5 other associates have been arrested, and they all face similar charges. All of the people in the indictment are said to have ties with Lil Durk's rap group, OTF, which stands for Only the Family. Dirk's denied claims that OTF is a gang, but the police think otherwise, so the prosecutors are saying that the gang organized a shooting that occurred on August 22nd in Lil Durk, and his alleged gang were supposedly looking for Quando Rondo was directly involved in King Von's death, so they were allegedly after him for revenge. According to the indictment, the men used a credit card that belonged to an OTF member to book plane tickets to La. It says that the whole purpose of the trip was to find Quando. Rondo prosecutors say that once the gang arrived, one of the members allegedly booked a hotel room for them to stay in while they carried out their mission. They also say he provided them with firearms. They then say they rented out 2 cars, which they used to follow Quando Rondo as well as his cousin at some point, Quando. And his cousin stopped to get gas, and their alleged pursuers took the chance to try and take them out. They allegedly got out of their car and opened fire on Quando, and his cousin Quando somehow managed to escape without any injury, but his cousin was executed. The prosecutors claim that after the shooting, they went to a nearby restaurant to discuss payment for the hit. The very same day, plane tickets were purchased for them to head back to Chicago. So it sounds like the prosecution has a lot of evidence here. You can even see alleged CCTV footage of the shooting taking place. Although Quando survived, he was seriously shaken up by the incident. Just after the shooting, a video came out of him talking to the police, and in it he looks like he's freaking out. In the video, you see his arms flailing around the place, and he looks visibly disturbed. At one point, Quando sees the police dragging out his cousin's body from the car, and he...
Man, from my understanding, like, not trying to, I don't want nobody to think I'm chasing clout, bringing their name up and stuff, but
Right.
at the end of the day, man, I'm like, it ain't about no clout. Like, I got, man, like when people be saying, like, people chasing clout and stuff, how, man, like, Rick.
Q's cousin was known as El Piab, and it seems that he was only killed due to being with Quando at the time the shooting happened back in 2022. But only last month, Quando did an interview where he spoke about P's death, the situation around it, and how it affected him. Check it out.
I understand me, ma'am. It was a love, I had a relationship with the big bro. Not want to say his name. Not, you feel me? You know what I'm talking
Yeah, it
about,
was
the
cool.
dude that was on my album.
Okay.
Like, it was all love with us from my understanding.
I've heard you say positive things about...
So, as you can see, even years later, the incident has affected him. However, it's not the first time he was shot at. Since King Von's death, Quando was also shot in 2021 in Georgia. It was just after he finished a performance at a club. As he and his entourage left the venue, somebody opened fire on them. Quando managed to remain unscathed again. But that time, one of his friends got shot through the hand. The police never found out who did it, but considering the timing, it's likely that that was in retaliation for King Von's murder. We don't know if that incident was related. To Dirk, But from what we know about his arrest, LB's murder likely was, and at the time, people on Reddit expressed some interesting things about what they thought happened, one user wrote. It's especially sad because 1, it was self-defense, and 2, Quando isn't even the one who killed Vaughn. It was his friend, but Quando gets blamed just by being the famous one associated with the shooter. They make a good point. Quando seems to be getting most of the heat for Vaughn's death, but he wasn't even the one who pulled the trigger. However, another user says he deserves some blame. Quando repeatedly dissed Vaughn's sense, and his PPL posted Vaughn's dead body online. I have zero sympathy for him. Well, no matter what anyone else thinks, Dirk allegedly wants him dead. What's sad is that before all of this beef, Quando actually spoke about how he looked up to Dirk and saw him as his older brother. Why does Dirk want Quando dead? Back in 2021, Quando did an interview with Angela Yeh where he spoke about his relationship with Dirk, and he said some things that you may find surprising. They start off speaking about how he and Dirk were cool.
Who never charged me for a feature, none of that, knowing he could've. Like, I looked at it, I'm like, this the big bro. Like, big bro, a legend. Like, this how all the young rappers coming up in the game looking at him like, been listening to him since I've been.
After that disclaimer, he goes on to explain his side of the story. He doesn't want to address Dirk by name, but he calls him the big.
So I'm letting this group come back. Next thing you know, it hit me. You feel me? Boom, bam. Man, like, I like to unite, man. I like to unite. Like, it's like I had an out-of-body experience.
We've all heard V could throw a punch, but damn. After that, though, Q's friend L. Tim jumped to his defense and shot Vaughn dead. The official story is that Quando was napping in a car outside the club while he waited for his friend who was inside. L. Tim was supposedly watching over Quando while he slept, and then Quando woke up and left the vehicle. That's when Vow and his crew turned up looking for trouble. When they started to fight, Quando L. Tim, whose real name is Timothy Leaks, saw his friend getting attacked and protected him. Initially, after the shooting, L. Tim was charged with murder. He was arrested shortly after the shooting, but in the end, he was cleared of all charges. It's pretty surprising that the case was completely dropped, and many expected at least a manslaughter charge. King Von's family was not happy about it, and his ex-girlfriend wrote on Twitter because the police said Tim didn't kill the police. It was as an explanation for why L. Tim was released, even though Quando was really just a victim of a random assault. King Von's associates have never forgiven him for it. Fans of V have been attacking him for years, and as we've seen, he's had 2 attempts on his life, we know. Vaughn and Dirk were very good friends, and Dirk was like a mentor and older brother to him. It's obvious he would be angry at Quando, but nobody knew he was willing to go that far to get revenge in an interview with No Jumper in April. Quando spoke about the backlash and hate he's received. He said, "I don't give a about them because they never been my fans from the get-go." He then says something would really piss off any Vaughn fans: when God call your home, you gotta go, brother. So, although he wasn't the instigator of the beef, you can see why some of his comments would provoke Vaughn supporters, especially if those supporters are also gang members. Lil Durk claims he's not part of a gang, but from his relationship with V, we know that's most likely not true. After all, the 2 of them have been involved in a lot of alleged criminal activities over the years. You won't believe the extent of it. Lil Durk and King Von's criminal friendship. Days after King Von's death, Lil Durk expressed his feelings about it on Instagram. He posted this message alongside a picture of his departed friend. "My twin gone. I love you, baby bro." The 2 of them were close for many years. Shortly after Vaughn started rapping, Dirk took him under his wing and signed him to OTF's record label. He essentially kickstarted Vaughn's career. The 2 of them were so close that people started to wonder if they were related. Dirk and V were well known throughout the whole of Chicago, and it wasn't just because of their music. They were a duo, but an unofficial one. And although Dirk played a major role in V's blow-up, they never officially collaborated on a project. Lil Durk is in his 30s now and has been a part of the Chicago drill scene for many years. Even though he's not that old compared to most others who are either dead or in jail, he can be seen as a veteran. There are not many people from that scene that make it to his age, that's for sure, but it looks like that's no longer true, and his criminal past is coming back to bite him as well as being known for their music. Von and Dirk are also known for their roles in alleged crimes. Their music often speaks about their involvement in crimes, and many think that it sets a bad example for kids growing up in Chicago. V himself was jailed at a pretty young age for being involved in multiple shootings. He eventually was released, and it was after that Dirk took him under his wing. However, both Von and Dirk were implicated in a crime shortly before Von's death on February 5, 2019. A man named Alexander Witherspoon was shot after a robbery in Atlanta. It is said that Lil Durk, as well as King V, were the ones who did it, and they were both arrested for it. Prosecutors told the judge that Alexander Witherspoon was shot outside a restaurant known as the Varsity, and his Jeep, as well as $30,000 in cash, was stolen. Witherspoon survived but suffered a gunshot wound to his leg. Video footage was shown in court that allegedly showed Von and Dirk at the scene of the crime, but their lawyer argued that you never saw either of them pull the trigger. The incident was huge as it involved two of Chicago's biggest rappers, and due to the gang beef that was feared to be spreading to Atlanta, a Chicago police captain flew in to be a part of the proceedings during their case. Von and Dirk were refused bail and charged with aggravated assault, attempted murder, street gang activities, and other things. Although the shooting happened in February 2019, a warrant went out for Dirk's arrest in May that year, and he turned himself in shortly after. Although V died before the verdict was ever reached, Dirk was later cleared of all charges. There was also another incident of them being involved in a shooting together. However, this one took place after V had died, but was said to have been planned while he was still alive. The guy who was shot was called FBG Duck, and his family blamed Dirk and VO for it. Only a couple of weeks before Dirk's arrest, FBG Duck's mother filed an explosive lawsuit about it. The suit implicates both Dirk and VO for the killing of Duck. On the Gold Coast in August 2020, FBG Duck was gunned down as he waited outside a Dolce & Gabbana store. Duck was pronounced dead on the scene, and his girlfriend as well as one of his friends were also wounded in the attack. The lawsuit not only goes after Dirk and VO, but also their estates and businesses connected to them, including two security firms and many other associates of the gang, known as Block. That Dirk and VO were associated with Duck's murder stem from a vicious beef between his gang known as Twile, which is a sect of the notorious Chicago gang known as the Gangster Disciples. For years, the Gangster Disciples have had beef with another gang known as the Black Disciples. The Black Disciples are the gang that Black belongs to. The beef between these two groups has gone on for many years, but started to escalate when VO and FBG Duck started making diss tracks about each other. Although V was shot before FBG Duck was, he's accused of putting a bounty on his head. It sounds very similar to what Dirk's being accused of. Now the lawsuit was filed in Cook County Court and holds that Dirk's record label Only the Family, or OTF, is not just a record label, but also a criminal gang. The label, which included V, has held contracts with Sony and other larger labels which allegedly welcomed artists engaged in criminal activity. According to the lawsuit filed by Duck's family, Von had a vendetta against FBG Duck and consistently sought to build a brand of violence and reality rap based on committing real acts of violence on FBG Duck and the public at large. The lawsuit also accuses them of using Chicago's violence to increase their record sales. It says they understood that reality rap, violence, controversy, beefs, and notoriety were good for driving increased record sales, streams, and views, for building a brand and profiting from a violent image. So it looks like Dirk's criminal history is finally coming to light, but it's a lot deeper than you might imagine. Lil Durk's criminal history. Since Dirk's arrest, A video has resurfaced of him speaking to the well-known influencer and streamer Aiden Ross, where he briefly mentions his criminal history. Check out what they said to each other.
Like regularly fucked up. Emotional jail.
How many of your friends do you think you lost to violence? You know?
Like 20.
20 friends?
I think like 20.
Not 20 people you knew, 20 actual friends.
Yeah, like 20, 30 people.
Despite Dirk being a Chicago rap legend, more and more about his past is coming out. Now he's been arrested. He's 32 now, but he's been making songs since his early 20s that detail his experiences of gang life and growing up in Chicago. Sources have revealed that his growth was not straightforward, and he's had to overcome many trials and tribulations in his life. He had a rough start to his early life, and when he was just a kid, his father was sent to prison. His mother was a nurse and had to take care of him on her own. His father was given life imprisonment and was said to have been connected with a drug organization. This meant that Dirk was left pretty much unsupervised as a kid, and as a result, it was the streets that really raised him. Dirk had to quickly learn how to navigate life on the streets, and like many others in his city, he developed an affinity for guns. So in 2013, he was arrested for gun possession when police discovered that he had not one but two fully loaded guns in his possession. He ended up serving 6 months in jail. He said he hated jail, and he promised himself he would always make sure he never wound up behind bars ever again. But that promise was broken more than once to make things worse after he was arrested. In 2013, his son was born. His being in jail meant he missed the birth of his first child. He also lost many of his friends when he was growing up. And in an interview, we hear him talk about his early days. This interview was from when he was a lot younger, and he opened up about what losing his friends was like. He speaks about losing many of his friends to the streets, and how one of them, Nusi, was killed just after they both signed a deal together. Here's him explaining how he felt after hearing that.